Hey guys, coming back at you, Max and George, with another midnight minisode, another trailer breakdown for you. We are talking about the third film in the new Wizarding World series, talking about Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. The trailer just dropped earlier this week. Not a whole lot to make of it. It was kind of a teaser more than an actual trailer,
Yeah, I mean, it was what, like 2.5, 3 minutes of
something like that.
very short clips that seemed highly disjointed. There wasn't a lot of, here's some kind of story that we're going to tell, but, it comes out in what, April of next year, I think. I
Yeah,
think that this is the timing's right for a teaser like this to come out, give us a good chunk of content and things to digest and think about, but not really give us too much. I think the same thing happened with No Way Home and a bunch of the big Marvel films this year. That's kind of what
and
big franchises do.
And even Star Wars has done that in the past with
Yeah,
the initial teaser, and then we'll probably get the full trailer, something like 3 minutes,
yeah.
uh, come maybe February.
February. Yeah, maybe early March at the latest.
Yeah,
No, February. I'd say February.
I'd say
March
probably
would be a little bit late.
early February for the first one, and then maybe a second trailer mid-March, and then the film will drop in April.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they market this film, uh, and not to get too in the weeds of the political situation that's surrounding J.K. Rowling, but she has made some controversial comments that have drawn fire from both fans and even some of the original Harry Potter cast themselves. And I don't know if you noticed this, George, but it was something I saw in an article, and then when I watched it tonight, went back and saw how small her name was in
Oh,
how it was featured in the trailer. It was Warner Brothers invites you instead of in the first couple ones, it was J.K. Rowling invites you. And then it was at the very end, sort of in the final card for the trailer, it was in tiny lettering saying from the works of J.K. Rowling. And so it's gotten progressively smaller in each of the three films. And, not to belabor the point, but the Fantastic Beasts uh, franchise has been mired in some controversy outside of J.K. Rowling, with Johnny Depp being recast with Mads Mikkelsen.
yeah. We'll get into the recast in a minute here, but I think what a lot of people that I've seen in social media circles, just talking to people about this movie, is that when the first movie came out in 2016, it had been 5 years since the last Harry Potter film. Obviously, fans were still very big on the franchise. All of these stories about J.K. Rowling and what she has said about various marginalized communities in her public sphere that she is in through social media. The first film had a lot of anticipation. And I think part of my experience, because I grew up with Harry Potter, I know you did too. Um,
Sure.
I think bringing these fans back after a childhood of Harry Potter for something fresh but still Wizarding World was a lot of the reason for success for the first film. And of course, it was a great story because we're meeting all these new characters, we're diving into the world. And then, of course, this is nothing against Warner Brothers, but they're like, we're going to make it a franchise and we're going to tie it into the 1945 duel between Grindelwald and Dumbledore. And I think that's where it sort of lost some of its novelty when you get into the second film, The Crimes of Grindelwald, because you've got Newt Scamander and Tina Goldstein and Jacob Kowalski and everyone else that you've come to this small band of characters from the first film that you come to know and love. Uh, and then in the second film, it just becomes so overcrowded with characters that, oh, maybe they were, a relative of someone we heard of in the original series.
Mm-hmm.
But then the story is so convoluted, going back and forth to, oh, this is something that happened in the past. This is something that's happening now. Also, there are magical creatures around. And by the way, Credence is Dumbledore's long lost younger brother.
Yeah.
They packed so much into that second movie that I think this third movie, I mean, the trailer looks, and we will actually talk about the trailer here. But I think the franchise, and they're going to make 5 films, so this is the third of 5.
Mhm.
The franchise hinges on this film because the
I agree
first
with
one
that.
was great. The second one was, in the scope of Harry Potter, subpar. It just,
I would even argue it was bad.
yeah, I mean,
When
I
it
wasn't
comes
going to say
to
that.
the quality, I'll say it. And I love Harry Potter as much as anybody. And
It
I've
wasn't a
loved the
good film.
characters. I didn't enjoy it.
I've
I
seen it.
don't. I've seen
I
it
saw it.
twice, I think, but
I saw it
don't really
opening night.
remember what happened.
I saw it opening night in the theater. After I had seen I had just watched the first film like a week
Mhm.
beforehand, so it was fresh in my mind. And then I went to see it opening night, and I haven't seen it since.
Yeah.
I've had no interest in seeing it since. So now I want to get into the
Well,
reason why
can I
we're
just
here
make
tonight.
one more point
Oh yeah,
about what you just said really quickly?
yeah. Go ahead.
I'll be very quick.
Go ahead.
It was interesting how you talked about the way that the first film worked and the way that the second film didn't work, in that it was overcrowded. I think one of the most charming aspects of the original series with Harry Potter and what worked in the first movie was how intimately we got to know the characters and how much we started to care about them and how much we could relate to them just as people, not as their wizarding personalities, but just who they are, the experiences that they go through. And that was something that we could think about. One thing that I think didn't work quite as well is knowing exactly what time period we're supposed to be in. There's this timeless feel to the Harry Potter films, right? Like, of course, we do know that it is in the 80s and 90s and everything like that, but they could still be, because of the way that the wizarding world is set up, it could happen at any point. We only know that it happened in the 90s because of the way that the story is played out with Dumbledore and Grindelwald and Voldemort and everything. But that was really my main point, is that I think this film, if we get to know characters really well, there's some good character development, that this film can work remarkably well and could actually save this franchise for the last 2 films.
Yeah, definitely. 100% agree about how much we care about the characters in the first few Harry Potter films. But I think a lot of that comes from the source material. You
Yeah,
know, we all grew
absolutely.
up with the books. Newt Scamander is the only one we had heard of coming into the first film and coming into the
Mhm.
franchise. So, and he wasn't even a character in the original series. He was
Mhm.
just mentioned as this magizoologist. Try
And
saying
then
that
through a
5 times
spin-off
fast.
and then through a spin-off book where he
Right.
writes the introduction, and
That's it.
everything else is literally just descriptions of magical creatures. That's it.
Yeah. So they had this idea for revitalizing the franchise
Mhm.
with a movie and then eventually into a film series, but we don't have that same level of connection with the characters. And now we have all these characters that were just introduced in the last film. Obviously, some of them were killed off and some of them are back, but there are also new characters in this film.
Mhm.
So let's dive on into the trailer. What did you see? What did you want to see? And what were you looking for?
I mean, one of the things that stood out to me was, obviously the film is going to be called The Secrets of Dumbledore, and so we'll get a lot more backstory on Jude Law's interpretation of the character,
Mhm.
which I'm excited to see. I thought he did a great job in his small portions in um, The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yeah.
And I think seeing Dumbledore's power, and how he became who he is in the Harry Potter franchise will be great to see in this film. Just looking at one of the final shots in the trailer was him and Credence engaging in a battle, and Credence, putting all of his might, it looked like, behind a spell, and Dumbledore putting up his left hand like that, and simply sort of dissipating the power of the spell. And I want to see what the consequences of that are, what the context is, and see how Jude Law's Dumbledore interacts with characters throughout the entire length of a film, and instead of sort of playing puppet master behind the scenes, which is kind of what I felt like he was relegated to in the second film.
Yeah, in a crowded second film, he was really pushed off to the side.
Yeah.
I was sort
And
of
it
like,
felt
oh,
unnecessary. I think he could have played a larger part.
yeah, it was like, oh, Jude Law is Dumbledore in this era of the
Mhm.
wizarding world, but we're just gonna tease his presence. We're not gonna say he's gonna be a major player here. We're gonna save his big moments for later films in the franchise. And I hope they get to a fifth film to say, here's the big duel that we've been teasing for, you know, by that time, 20
I really
years
want to see it. Like,
since the
I
book came out.
mean, been reading about it, heard about it on in movies. I want to see it on the big screen. I think it would be amazing.
And I think a big part of that is going to be that recast that you mentioned. Obviously, Johnny Depp has had his legal situation play out over the last couple of years since the last film came out. But now Mads Mikkelsen is here. He's playing Grindelwald for the foreseeable future in this franchise. Is it so wrong to say I love the casting? Like, I liked Johnny Depp in the role in the second film. We didn't really see him in the role in the first film. It was more Colin Farrell in his role
Yeah.
as sort of the the different approach to Grindelwald through the polyjuice, or however he
I think it
transformed.
was a very powerful transfiguration charm.
Okay.
So, like, I mean, that's, yeah. And I wonder if they're gonna address that in this film, whether it's not going to be explained at all, and they're just going to accept that he looks different. I mean,
They
it could
have
be another
magic.
spell. They have magic.
They can explain
That's
it.
a very easy explanation. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the 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 cast of characters is very much Newt Scamander's Suicide Squad. It feels like with this group of wizards and Jacob Kowalski
Yep.
as
And now
this.
as a wand,
He's got a wand. We don't know if it's a real wand because
or yeah.
he never uses it in the trailer.
Hmm.
But Dan Fogler, he's had his ups and downs in his career. He's had some winners. He's had some not so good films, but he's charming. He's charismatic. He's funny as
Yeah.
this supporting role in the Fantastic Beasts
He's
franchise.
been a winner in all three films, all the same as Eddie Redmayne has been as Newt Scamander.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see
Yeah.
how Eddie Redmayne plays off of Jude Law in an expanded capacity.
Mhm. Because I think Jude Law's Dumbledore actually served as a mentor figure to
Yeah,
Newt as a professor while he was at Hogwarts, and that was the connection in the Crimes of Grindelwald. And now Newt isn't necessarily in charge, but is taking more of a leadership role within, I guess, like you said, the Suicide Squad of Newt, his brother, whose name is escaping me at this point, and Jacob, and a couple of other people. It looked two new characters, professor, and then someone with a long familial tied to
yeah.
some famous wizarding family. I honestly have no idea who those two characters are.
But yeah, it looks like it's going to be another character-packed
Mhm.
film, both with, as I said before, these returning characters. You saw a lot of Newt's brother in the previous film.
Yeah.
Newt's back, Jacob's back, Dumbledore's back. Obviously, Credence is back.
New haircut.
Aurelius Dumbledore, lack of haircut. Um, and you'll have Mads Mikkelsen and Alison Sudol and Catherine Waterston as the Goldstein sisters. And seeing their dynamic in this film, we didn't see them really at all in the trailer, which was a little surprising for me. But their dynamic after Queenie Goldstein defected to Grindelwald's side in the end of the second film. How is that going to play out? We didn't really see any of that in the trailer, but it looks promising as a trailer. Obviously, we're going to dive further into it when we see the second trailer, and eventually when we see the film. Maybe we'll get together with Ben and Declan to talk about that on Unqualified Film Bros. But I'm going to go into this film cautiously optimistic because I love the Wizarding world, and I'm going to give Eddie Redmayne and Jude Law and Dan Fogler the benefit of the doubt, and Mads Mikkelsen because we haven't seen him yet.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see this new portrayal. I read an article a few days ago with an interview from Mads Mikkelsen in where he was asked how he's going to portray this villain, and he said
The
it
Sheaf.
would no. He said it would be foolish to try and imitate or try and even emulate Colin Farrell's performance or Johnny Depp's performance as Grindelwald. That he has tried to make this character his own. So we may get a completely different interpretation of Grindelwald, which I think would be interesting.
Yeah.
Especially as time has passed. Maybe we get a little bit more seasoned, older, grittier Grindelwald that is a little bit more wise than maybe the more rambunctious and impulsive versions that we got in the first two films, which I think would be fitting for Mads Mikkelsen to play, kind of a quiet, threatening type character rather than a showboat that we got in the second film.
Yeah, definitely something to watch for in the upcoming film. The third film in the Fantastic Beasts franchise, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, is coming to theaters in the spring. We will be back with the Unqualified Film Bros for an early review of Spider-Man: No Way Home next week. But until then, we'll see you this weekend. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this midnight minisode.
Good night.